Hey traders, this is Christian from Tribeca Trade Group, and it is Wednesday, December 16th. So another day in the books. We had another event to kind of get through today, which was Powell, Fed. The FOMC today seems very dovish to me. Sounds like kind of what we expected for the day, but you never really know with these Fed days. Sometimes there is something that just comes out of the press conference that people kind of get glued to a word, whether it's inflation or something like that. But overall, listening to Powell and the comments that come off of Bloomberg too, the headline comments that come off of Bloomberg are just continue to seem to be very dovish. And so, we kind of watch out for some of these things and have it on our radar for the day that, maybe there'll be something like that. And of course, people are kind of, paying attention to this round of stimulus that's going to happen too. I got a couple comments today about, hey, maybe it'll be once they pass this, it'll be a sell the news. I mean, I don't know. My thought is that, and I expressed this a couple times in the room, so you can skip ahead if you're watching this, and you know that I already covered this a little bit. But really, it's important to kind of be prepared for some of these things. In terms of number one, I don't think that you're going to predict like when there's ever going to be a little bit of a market dip. The only thing that you could really do, in my opinion, is just get a place that you're comfortable in terms of managing risk, right? We know that this market, has been doing very well since the election, and we've now this has now been going on for a month and a half, and the S&P, of course, did make. Sorry, there's a headline. There's a headline about Roku. We did see some calls in Roku at the end of the day. That's why I'm kind of interested in this here for a second. So I'm just going to throw this on Twitter. To distribute eight, I don't know if that's that market moving for that, but so just to kind of finish what I was saying. Sorry, I always get distracted by the headlines too. I'm waiting for Lennar earnings to come out as well, but yeah, I mean that's basically how you want to think about things, considering that we really can't, predict when we're going to get a market pullback. It's important just to be a risk manager. It's one of those things that I talk about just about every day in these videos. Not only talking about trade setups and so forth, but really about being a risk manager and watching how many positions you have on, especially on the option side, making sure that you're taking targets with options, that you're rolling, what I did today, for example, in PayPal, which I'll get to, I rolled my strike and my calls up, right, to a higher strike. So that locks in some profits for me, and makes that a profitable trade. And also keep some skin in the game, right? You hear that a lot with options, and we see that a lot by more of the professional traders. They have a big winning trade. What do? They don't just say, "Oh, I'm done with this trade. I don't like the stock anymore." What they do is a lot of times is they keep some skin in the game and they roll out and up, meaning that they either take their position, let's say, of PayPal, which I was in, and they go out to a further expiration month and a higher strike. I was already in March calls in PayPal, so I just that's enough time, so I just rolled to a higher strike. All right, but these are some of the things as we continue to ascend higher. Now, of course, this week and towards the end of last week we slowed down a little bit, and we're not in overbought territory in terms of the RSI. It's a 64 right now in the S&P. IWM, which we talked about yesterday, which kind of took off the day a little bit today, was just down fractionally. Still pretty hot, a 73 RSI. And the Qs right now are a 66. Qs had the nice performance of the day. So again, what we're kind of seeing too is very, representative of a bull market, right? It's not every day the same groups are leading. We are seeing that, like, little bit of rotation. A couple days we saw, about a week ago, we saw energy stocks and banks, were strong, more of the value, and then we come back and have a day like this, and we see a lot of momentum and a lot of growth names outperform. So besides the gold miners, silver miners actually saw a lot of call activity today. Specifically AG, I think PAAS also called a call buyer as well. We can look at a couple of those charts really quick because sometimes I forget to come back to them. But look at AG, right? I mean, if you cover up the symbol, this is a pretty good looking breakout, right? And there was like 50,000 calls on the tape, some of which were against an order, but I'll show you some of the order flow. Right, it was just kind of steady for AG. So again, that happens a lot of times on Fed days where we do see some gold miners, but this was a put order, 50,000. This was close to the end of the day. That was interesting that also hit late opening, but a lot of calls too. So to me, right, I know a lot of people look for the option flow. Really, what I think what kind of trumps option flow for me, again, everybody's different, is just to watch the chart. Right, have a level to trade against. So for this, you can go long. You've got a decent stop down there, at the top of value, which is here. So 1130, and you go long, right? Because really, we don't know what they know. We don't know if they're doing some type of, hedging or so on and so forth. But this to me looks like a pretty decent setup, right? In AG, again, something different, right? And we've seen where did silver end up? Yeah, I mean, silver actually, had a big day and got out of value too. So up 3.5%. This wasn't what I was going to lead off with today, but hey, these are things, gold and silver, that have kind of been pretty dormant the last couple months. But, our goal is to basically, find whatever's moving. I don't care if it's a silver miner. I don't care if it's a Bitcoin. I don't care if it's steel names, software names, high momentum, cannabis names. I don't care. Our goal is to basically trade whatever is the good setup and not have, views that say, oh, this shouldn't happen or that should happen. I do that from time to time. You'll hear me complain about this area or that area of the market, and I don't participate in it. But for the most part, what I'm trying to do, besides some of those little areas of the market, I do try to capitalize on, whatever's moving and whatever looks like a good setup, right? We're traders number one, or traders and risk managers, but the idea is to stay as objective as possible. So interesting little setup here. And again, why not with this market, right? The way that it's kind of been rotating around. I like PAAS is one name that I've traded before, but WPM doesn't look like it really did much today. I like this AG, and I like silver out of those names. All right, so that was just the one area, but I did see it, outperforming. Also just keep in mind, this happens sometimes on Fed days too, where we happen to see the metals kind of do something interesting and then they go quiet for a bit. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And then of course, software was very strong today. Where to start with this group? Shopify. It seemed like a lot of the, online companies on online retail did very well. There is an ETF for that, by the way. Nope, this is another ETF that's doing pretty well too. This is iPay. I'm thinking of the retail, but I can't remember the ETF. Online retail. Let me look it up really quick, because I know someone will call it out to me. It's very similar to that one. Online retail. What is this thing? Where is this thing? Nope, that's not it. No, not eBiz. Jeez, what are this thing? Wow, I can't find it. I cannot believe it. iBuy, that's what it is. Thank you. So online retail did very well today. So if you look at it, Shopify, very strong. Where did Overstock end on the day? It did not get out of value. We were looking at that name pre-market. Then, of course, this name, JMIA. What's the other one? BIGC. Not yet. I still think, I like this JMIA a lot. right? And a few other ones were strong in this space. And then if we go into things like, the software names, ServiceNow saw a nice call buyer. And then we started to see things like, we talked about in yesterday's video, the Microsoft, all that Microsoft call activity. It's funny, they mentioned that today. I didn't hear very many people talking about all that accumulation that we talked about in yesterday's video. Big call activity. February, I think there were 215 calls. Today you heard about them, right? And so it was the second day of the Microsoft call activity. So the way that we talked about it in yesterday's video was, maybe putting a starter position on considering there is no signal. Now, if you like Microsoft, you got the signal, right? And you can trade this versus 217. All right. Amazon also got going a bit today too. Maybe this gets going a bit. I added a call spread, just to kind of play because the options are a little bit difficult to play in Amazon. So I usually, whenever I trade Amazon through options, I do it via call spreads, right? I either do like a $10 or $15 wide call spread. The one that I did was very short term. So you could look at this. Right, the one that I put on at the end of the day, 32.50, 32.60. So just a $10 wide call spread, just for the end of the week, right? And again, whenever you're doing something short term like this, you have to be okay with the risk. I mentioned PayPal before, yeah, I am long the marches. So this is a good example, right? We got long PayPal on the turn here. And it was a little bit weak yesterday, and I mentioned when I put this on earlier in the week that I was going to leg into the position a little bit. And of course it got going, very well from the start, and I ended up taking a target. But I was able to capitalize on yesterday's weakness, right? It came back in here. I wanted to make sure I added it on this first hour back yesterday. So this was a decent add yesterday, right? Where did I do this? This should be yesterday's. Yep. Right around 12 o'clock yesterday, I added that back, so I was able to take those, have that. I was already long the March 240 calls, but the add really helped there. Fubu, this worked as well, right? Just a lot of momentum names got going a bit today, so I actually hit 31 on this one, so pretty lucky that I got the 31 price target. But one of the things that we've been talking about in the trading room was considering that kind of rotation that we've been seeing in the market, but there was a bunch of names that just seemed like that they were ready to go, right? We talked about GRWG, just a lot of names just consolidating a little bit, right? This definitely got going, and this was a trade that we put on late yesterday too. Really strong, right? Up 11% for the day. CELH was another one that we set up yesterday, right, for members, up 10%, right? My comments yesterday were, hey, this thing is nice and quiet, right? And, this thing took off, right? First green bar and then just continued up 37.64. Also of the online casinos, right? Sticking with, so again, it was very much an online type feel to today's price action, right? We talked about Shopify. We talked about, a couple other names. Obviously, the software is a little bit more in that space too. But DraftKings was a nice order too. This was one that we played. Now, so how to play this going forward, right? DraftKings, because it looks like a really nice. It looks like a really nice move out of value, right? What I checked too is the 1 hour charts, and notice that we took out a virgin point of control, right? So these red lines, again, they're called VPOCs, but the abbreviation is virgin point of control. It's important because price, it's kind of like how a gap works or a gap fill works, right? So this has come back to an area of high volume, right? And we can turn this on here so you could see what I'm referring to. Show value area. Nope, that's not what I want. Show profile, right? To see the volume profile. This is, of course, our market webs indicator. But here you go, right? So here was so again, this value area, the one that I'm highlighting here, is from this time period, right? So we draw these forward, and we get great support and resistance lines. So this virgin point of control becomes a sticking point, right? That the fact that price did not go through it, right? So whenever price does not go through a point of control for a period, it leaves one of these red lines behind, which is a virgin point of control. Notice all these other periods, right? You could see price go through, price goes through, price went through this point of control, right? So they're like filled, right? The value areas are filled. Notice this one, price wasn't there, but the VPOC was taken out right away. That was kind of a fresh one. So we're right there. So from a risk standpoint, if you wanted to go long DraftKings, personally, what I would do is wait till it gets back above this, right? We talked about this in Chipotle too, right? Chipotle was a name that I played a couple weeks back, and my target, right? I got long someplace in here, and my target was this 1345, right? I think right in here I got long, and took the trade off here. So notice it took this off, faded a little bit, digested, and then we talked about it today. There was a nice analyst note on it, and sure enough, this thing did not give you much time to get in it. Chipotle is like a great chart. It's a great name to continue to kind of play because the trend is so nice in this thing. However, the options are super difficult to trade in Chipotle. It's one of those names that I just trade stock with it, but it's tough. It's a $1,400 stock, but very nice, and that's another example of. So what I would do with DraftKings, is kind of see the same thing, or you could just make sure that you set a stop with DraftKings. But sometimes we do see these things taken out, and then they kind of move back a bit, right? And not till today, and again, sometimes this is how it works. Then price really launches over it again once that's been realized. All right, so that's DraftKings, and then the other one that really got going too is Penn. Penn's again, if you look at the performance in some of these names, it's crazy, right? Up another 7% on the day, and big option activity in this one. So, very nice. So lots of pockets of strength in the market. SE also turned, but didn't really have any major momentum to it. I got one target up 194. I would watch this one tomorrow. Remember, it's been kind of slow because it had a secondary, right? Once a name has a secondary, you usually have to wait a few days. That one's on my radar for tomorrow. Also, this gravy, I call it gravy. It's gravity. Boom. Look at this thing. Out to 192. So took another target in this thing today, and I've got the last piece, but really nice consolidation. Again, another tough one. It doesn't have any, it's pretty thinly traded, this name, and it doesn't have any options. But it's a great name to play that usually does catch some momentum to it. So here was the setup in this one. And again, you kind of see this similar pattern, right? Within like about 10 different stocks that, just a bull flag, really nice bull flag and a break higher, right? So we've talked about a few of them so far. Wix had a nice day today too. Although it did not close on the highs. Another name sticking with the W's is Wingstop. Talked about Chipotle. This Wingstop looks pretty good too. Break out of value, use a stop of 132. All right. One name that's on my radar, and I did start a position in this, maybe a little bit too preemptive for this one, but this right? So again, it may need a little bit more time, but notice how it's kind of doing the same thing, right? Big breakout, bearish engulfing bar, and it's kind of just settling in here. Where is it settling in? To the 20-day moving average. So it may just need some more time. I'll give you a nice level to watch. And we didn't get through that. It was a little bit of a tease, and I jumped on the tease, but 150. Right, so again, that's why I kind of start a position, especially when I'm putting on a swing trade, right, and I'm watching price action. We don't know how these things are going to close, so I always kind of leg into the position, right, because we just don't know how that's going to work. All right, a few other names that we talked about today. Here's our chart swing trade setup, right? Chipotle was one of the first ones. Chipotle and Microsoft were we send out an email with the charts of the day. And Microsoft and Chipotle were our two charts of the day. DraftKings again, we talked about this one at 7:40, 7:50 in the morning, right? So we do our homework at night and then have a list of stocks that we're interested for the next day. How did this TPR go? I was looking at this one and kind of turned away. Oh, good, no take on this one. Gave it back. Here's the CELH that we talked about, and again we talked about this one yesterday. Somewhere in here. Quiet. I said quiet consolidation, right? In CELH yesterday. All right. So there's that. So again, this is the place, and if you're a new member, this is where you go for ideas, basically, swing trade ideas. I talked about Unity. DT had a whole bunch of calls go up in this one. I think that did take out the target there. Speaking of VPOC, all right, this thing went up. Another one up 8%. Amazing. All right, big calls went up in this one several times. Really stood out today. Shop. PDD is another one. All right, to give you guys one to watch for tomorrow. All right. Also, this is kind of a funky looking pattern, not so much a straight bull flag, but here was the gap up on earnings, had a little bit of follow through, consolidated out of this pennant, went higher, and then just like we mentioned with the other stock, Unity Software, big bearish engulfing, and it's kind of just sitting back. Notice again, 20-day moving average, right? Level to watch for PDD. So, wow, look how similar this one looks to the Unity Software. Watch for a break of 146. All right. Notice it tried this once this week, failed. Tried here again. So again, sometimes they just need a little bit of time, right? People need to forget about them for a couple times, for a short time, and then boom, they go. So 146 would be the level to watch for this one. It's pretty close. All right, guys. Really nice day. I mean, what can I say? Really nice week. P&L at the highs of 2020. Super excited. We're past the halfway point in December. Very, very nice. Our TTG trend portfolio, we rebalanced that this week. Made some changes. I added Datadog to that portfolio, which is doing pretty well so far. Right, up 3.2% this week. We added a couple other names too, and then our watch list. Our third program that we run, the TTG watch list program. Man, this thing's cooking too this week. So again, my goal with this watch list trade that we do, right, where we buy the watch list on Monday, hold it through the week, sell it on Friday, substitute into SPY for the weekend. And nobody else is doing a program like this. So it's kind of fun. The idea is if you do the research and you put together a watch list, have some skin in the game, right? So we do this program trade every week. I do this in a system called M1 Finance, right? And it's up 2.3% as a whole. Biggest names, Reggie, IIPR, Apps has also done very well. Again, sometimes I don't talk about all these names that I'm in because if they're working well, just kind of let them go, right? And let them do their thing. My next target, I guess I didn't have a target out at 50. It did hit a high of 50. Maybe I just didn't have a target out in this thing, but this is another one, right? That's been running and doing very well. So that's the performance of this. Our third program that we run, we're up 2.3%. I think SPY's only up about 1.1% for the week. So again, the goal is to outperform and earn alpha every week by just holding, a portfolio that I think is setting up that I construct over the weekend. So really nice, and I think we're now up over 30% in this program since we started it 2 months ago. So again, very, very pleased. All right, guys, have a great night. See you tomorrow.